Robert Towne said, persistence. Then he sent me another email with a story, so he sent it in 2 pieces. He said, we were in San Juan, Puerto Rico, in a house Roger rented for the cast of Last Woman on Earth, which is another personal favorite of mine. So, for the cast of Last Woman on Earth, and whatever else we were shooting there, when we realized there was no clean laundry. Roger got to one of the maids in our hotel to explain, nearby, the local maids, to explain the problem, but the trouble was the maid didn't speak any English, and Roger didn't speak any Spanish. So so the laundry started piling up, and Roger tried to explain the situation to the maid, who had no idea what the fuck Roger was talking about. Undaunted by this linguistic problem, Roger simply slowed down his English, and as if he were speaking to the hearing impaired, spoke very slowly, enunciating very clearly, wash. The maid spoke Spanish very rapidly, saying with increasing anxiety, lo siento, señor, pero no habla inglés. Roger listened very carefully, then enunciating even more slowly, wash. This went back and forth for an hour, with Roger's response to the Spanish, wash. Eventually she got the idea, she did the laundry. Roger's persistence paid off, as it usually does. There are many such stories, Comic-Con, on these low-budget miracles, but Roger was and is a thoroughly good guy and the best employer I ever had. I thought it was really touching. When I read that, I thought of the 60s, and I was thinking of I watched The Terror this morning, and I was thinking of, The Terror is a great example, 1962.
Great example of insanity, persistence and insanity.
But the beautiful persistence and the beautiful insanity of what we do, Nicholson, Boris Karloff, Coppola shooting some footage for you, Monty Hellman, the location manager, Bob Towne. The 60s leading up to the 70s, were you learning as a filmmaker there, or did you feel like I know how to do this now?
I was beginning to, you're learning all the time. Each film you learn more. But I had started in the late 50s, and I was beginning to get a general grasp of the trade, if you want to call it a trade, profession, craft. Actually, craft to me is a better word for it. I was beginning to learn the tools of the craft by that time.
Yeah. As we skip into the 70s, to me, you are, this is a strange thing to say that, but I truly believe you are the face of the 70s in American film, because to me that whole wave, and there are others, whether it's Bill Friedkin or Don Siegel, or who informed the 70s, but I really feel like the Corman chickens came home to roost in the 70s. I mean, you saw it, and you also did something really interesting. The 60s, before Easy Rider, there was The Trip. Before there was Fonda, Dern, and Nicholson, you had these guys. When the 70s came, was it shocking to you what studios were doing, or did you think this was great? This is really great.
I felt the studios had learned. In the 60s particularly, starting at the beginning of the 60s, I was making the Poe films, and then I simply wanted to get out of the studio and get into the streets and shoot. And I did The Wild Angels, which was the first of the Hell's Angels picture, which did extremely well. Then I followed it up, it was the opening night film of the Venice Film Festival. Then I followed it up with The Trip, which was about LSD, and that was actually the only American picture invited to the Cannes Film Festival that year. And out of those, sort of shooting in the streets, out of that came Easy Rider, which The Wild Angels and The Trip were big successes, and Easy Rider really broke it wide open. And I think by that time, the major studios had realized that there were some young guys out there shooting independently, and they did what any smart manager would do. They started hiring these guys. So all of a sudden, in the 70s, the guys I've been working with in the 60s and so forth, like Bob Towne or Marty Scorsese or Francis Coppola or Peter Bogdanovich, actors like De Niro, Nicholson, Charlie Bronson, and a number of others moved to the major studios, and they brought with them this source of, I don't know if rebellion would be the right word, but a sense of independence